Hello and welcome to the programme. The health of Ukrainian film director Oleh Sentsov, who's illegally held prisoner in Russia, is deteriorating rapidly, prompting international concern and condemnation. Last week, the European Union again urged Russia to place the film director in a certified medical facility, but the Kremlin remains silent. So, what can the international community do to facilitate the release of Ukrainians illegally held in Russia? Well, to discuss this, we are joined in the studio today by Bohdan Kryklyvenko. He is the former head of the Secretariat of the Ukrainian Parliament Commissioner for Human Rights and also works now with an NGO, Ukrainian for Ukrainian Human Rights. Hello, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello.
So we know that in authoritarian states, political prisoners are used for power purposes. In Russia, Putin wants to use cases like Sentsov to show that he can create this sort of fear of dissent, and also for people who fight human rights, he wants to deter them from investigating. So can you tell us what role today the international community plays in trying to get Ukrainian political prisoners like Sentsov and the dozens others released, and how has this changed over the months and even years?
Yeah, the international support and the support on the official level and in general, the support of the just simple people who write in letters with support to Ukrainian political prisoners, it's very crucial and very important. And I can't imagine the situation when we will be alone without international support. But today we have to speak about the next level of such type of support. And now in Ukraine already have the discussion about some type of special sanctions just related to the detention of political prisoners in Russia Federation. So we already have the experience. Then we have so-called law, Magnitsky law in the United States. So we don't want to wait the sad news from the Russian Federation about the death of some political prisoners. We are really have to start to work and create the list of the names who have to be under the sanctions and who was in the decision-making process for creating such big numbers of the political prisoners in Russia.
These are Russian officials you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we should talk. We should start from the names of the judges and investigators who bring these violated cases, who bring these illegal documents to these case files, and who organized all this criminal case file against our Ukrainians, our political prisoners.
So it's like a proactive strategy?
Yeah. We think that it should be next stage. We have to speak that it should be the official document, resolution or law or another type of document, where we can find the concrete numbers of the names who involved in this process. And this will give us the two very concrete signals that the next people in the next cases or in the cases which are still going under investigation, they will see that they can be next in this list on the next stages.
And this work is being done by the government, or is it civil society or who are helping to draw up the lists of people involved?
I think that the both, everybody should join their efforts, and I think that we should work together. So firstly, the NGO can collect the basic information about the cases and who was involved from the state side, I mean the Russian state side, in this process. And of course it should be built on the basis of the official document, and it should be adopted in the European Parliament or in another official authorities or in Congress in the United States or in another state. They should take into account the names, and I already said that for the next people who will be under the risk of involving of such illegal activities related to the political prisoners, they will understand that they could be next in this list. And the second point, very important, that these people who was already in decision-making process, they will see that this is the justice coming, and it can't be forgotten that they did so bad things.
Yeah. So well, this is interesting, actually, because recently Ukraine's justice minister, he said that it's the sixth lawsuit that they filed against Russia, but this one is really targeted towards the massive human rights violations that you've been talking about. Before I ask you a question, we have a synchron soundbite from the justice minister, so we'll have a look for you now.
Це вперше подається юридичний документ.
For the first time, Ukraine's government submits a legal document against Russia which describes the massive violations of human rights that are taking place against Ukrainian political prisoners on the territory of the Russian Federation. It specifies the names of Russian officials involved in this, including high-ranking officials. This gives us an argument for our international partners to introduce new personal sanctions against the Russian leadership. So that was Pavlo Petrenko speaking there. So what sort of effect do you think these interstate legal actions have actually for Russia?
Minister of Justice said about the application to the European Court of Human Rights. So with related to the case file of the political prisoners. Also, I have to say here that it's not the first legal document. In 2016, it was the lodged application to the International Court of Justice about the violation by Russia Federation of the International Convention of combating discrimination, and it was related to the discrimination of the Crimea Tatars people in Crimea, and it was connected to the ban of the Medjlis of Crimea Tatar people. And also the second point in this application to the ICJ, International Court of Justice, was related to the prohibition of the financing of terrorism. It's related to the Russian equipment and soldiers' presence on the Donbass in Ukraine during the conflict. So we know that now it's the stage of the hearings in Hague, in International Court of Justice, and in the same time another court, European Court of Human Rights, received already the sixth application related to the violation of the European Convention of Human Rights. So this is different document.
So this is the lawsuits from the state side. We don't have long left, unfortunately, but I have an interesting quote which I read about a week ago in the Guardian newspaper, British newspaper, and it stuck with me. It's in regards to Putin and the case against Sentsov. You can see it on the screen now. And there's a quote in this, and it says, what will cost him, Putin, more? The loss of face internally if he lets you go, Sentsov go, or the international outcry if he lets you die. Your only hope is that the latter will outweigh the former, which is why every statement, every publication such as this counts for something word by word, drop by drop. It's a really powerful statement that actually that was in the Guardian newspaper. I wanted to ask you, what sort of role does the media play in trying to get these political prisoners freed?
Thanks to the media and all journalist society who work to make public all this information related to the political prisoners in Russia, it's very crucial. Here we should be careful only in one position. Then the colleagues, the journalists, received some information, announcement about some very important event, how it was just a few days ago. Then at night it was the Facebook post that Oleh Sentsov is already on the plane and he goes to Kyiv.
This is the fake news.
Yeah, it's a fake news. And here we should be very careful, because whole society, not only Ukrainian society, but around the world, people waiting for such news.
I kind of found it amazing, though, that you had, not only was it the Guardian, but also recently Le Monde. There was a post in Le Monde, an op-ed with a lot of top French cultural figures who were calling for the release of Sentsov. Then you had Reuters. They did the story about phone call between Vladimir Putin and Emmanuel Macron. They talked about Sentsov. So there's still this momentum.
Yeah, this momentum, and also it's unfortunately not the first momentum. The previous momentum, the fresh one, was before the championship of the football. And everybody waits that it will happen and somebody from the political prisoners will be released. But unfortunately, the Putin personally and the whole Russian decision makers, they have very low understanding of the human rights and
fundamental
freedoms obligation of the Russia, and they just want to manipulate of the situation.
So
it's a question for what they keeping more than 70 people in the detention. Somebody just who put on their house the Ukrainian flag in Crimea, they got to the prison.
So it's a position of power, isn't it?
As for me, from my point of view, just showing that I'm big and powerful, but it's not really give any evidence that you have really power. You can isolate concrete people, but after isolation of Oleh Sentsov, the whole world already knows the name of Oleh Sentsov. And here is the big question: who are really more powerful?
That's a very good question to end on. Thank you so much for coming into our studio, and it was a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
So joining us in the studio was Bohdan Kryklyvenko. He's a representative of the Ukrainian Institute of Human Rights NGO. You're watching UATV.